All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. You're a little rascal. You want to learn how to win at chess really quickly and without having to study much. That's not how it's done. However, you're in the right video where I'm going to teach you how to win in just 6 moves, but listen to me. It's not just going to be a quick checkmate where if your opponent falls for it, great, and if not, oh well. Instead, I'm going to teach you how to win quickly no matter what your opponent does. This video is just packed with value. Pay attention. You're going to start by playing e4, the most logical move in chess. And now, the most common response is e5, the double king's pawn opening. As I always tell you, it's the most played opening in chess. Now, how are we going to continue? Well, with knight to f3, and then they'll usually reply with knight to c6. You can't tell me you haven't played this a million times. If you haven't played it a million times, it's because you haven't played a million games, right? So here, we're going to continue with the Scotch opening d4. What are we aiming for with the Scotch opening? Well, it's very simple. We're threatening to capture this pawn. Notice that we're attacking it with 2 pieces and it's only defended by 1. That is here the only good move by far for the black pieces, not negrias, okay? For black is to take this pawn. It's the only good one, all right? Otherwise we would capture, and here the natural move in the Scotch opening would be to capture this pawn. But as you know, we don't really like normal moves. We prefer unusual moves so that our opponent falls for them and we can win in just a few moves. Here, the first, though not the only, move I'm going to show you to win quickly is this knight jump over here. Knight to g5. It's a rather peculiar move, that's true. And it doesn't threaten anything, because a lone knight doesn't really do anything at all. Notice that everything it attacks is defended. This by the rook, this by the king. Coming here, nothing at all. In other words, it's a move that seems completely useless. And that's why your opponent will think this guy is really bad. He's wasting a tempo here with the knight. He brought out the knight. 1, 2, I chase it away, and he'll have to make a third move. So here, when they chase your knight away, we have at our disposal the brutal move, knight takes on f7. Notice that this knight is going absolutely alone, right? And you might say, wait, chess teacher, if it's going alone, why does this attack work? Well, first, because here we're attacking both the queen and the rook at the same time. In other words, the only move black can make is to capture the knight. Otherwise, they would lose one of these 2 pieces. And once they capture this knight, notice that what we've done is lure the king to the center of the board. And now we can attack him however we want. For example, with the bishop. Check. Notice that this king says, well, yes, the bishop is attacking me, but I can go back home and I have an extra knight. However, it's already too late, because look at the attack that's coming his way. Check now with the queen. It can't be blocked by either the bishop or the knight, because neither of them can get between the king and the queen. He also can't play this pawn move because we would simply capture and the threat would remain completely active. However, they can still try to escape with the king, although it's already too late. Why? Because we can very easily get in with the queen. Check. Notice that what we're doing is making it so the king can't go anywhere, and now we just need to keep up the attack. Look, if the king comes this way, how can we continue? By bringing in this bishop here. Look, these 2 bishops are like 2 swords, crossing in the middle of the board and making it impossible for the king to escape. He has to come over here. Notice that we bring in the queen. Check. If the king comes this way, that would already be checkmate. And if the king tries to escape this way, that would also be checkmate. What we've done with this move is sacrifice the knight to lure the king toward the center with our pieces and deliver checkmate. A very simple way to beat your opponents at the start of the game. But be careful, this is just the beginning. If you like this, what comes next is going to blow you away. So remember that we have to start with e4, the double king's pawn, knight to f3, and when they play knight to c6, we're going to play d4. When they capture, what are we seeing? This amazing trap with the knight over here. This would be the most basic way to win, but there's an even stronger way, which is by applying the Scotch Gambit with bishop to c4. I have a super interesting video on this channel where I talk in depth about this move, but here I'm going to show you how to win super quickly. Why do we play bishop to c4, giving up this pawn? Well, look, like every gambit, we're giving up a pawn in exchange for having much more attacking potential. And pay attention to this. We're attacking this square right here. For now, we're not doing anything yet. Notice that all the traps I'm showing you now, our whole modus operandi for attacking the opponent is by targeting this square here, before with the knight, now with the bishop, okay? Notice that the opponent, very cleverly, since they have an extra pawn and it's being attacked by 2 pieces, has thought, well, my opponent hasn't recaptured it, but instead developed a piece, So I'll develop another piece myself and at the same time defend this pawn. That's why bishop to c5 is the most commonly played move here. In fact, knight to f6 is also very commonly used. But notice that since this pawn isn't here, a push like this could really bother this knight. That's why it's much more common to first play bishop to c5. Maybe so that later you can play d6 without trapping the bishop, and now you can support here with the knight. And after bishop to c5, we're going to pull a move out of our hat that's extremely good, which is c3. This is where our opponent starts rubbing their hands together and says, all right, it's true, I have an extra pawn. And now with this move, you're letting me take here, and now for sure, I'll have an extra pawn for the whole game because I've captured two, and then when you recapture, you'll only have recaptured one from me, right? But the idea behind playing c3 isn't to exchange pawns or anything like that. We don't care about material right now. All we want is the attack, and what we want is to open up the queen's file. Notice something very important. If your opponent doesn't capture, that's fine. We'll capture ourselves, and just look at what a spectacular center we get. Same pieces, same pawns, and we have a center that's 1,000 times better than our opponents. That's why they capture here, right? And here we're already winning, really truly winning. And let me tell you something, okay? And I'm not joking just to make you believe it. With this trap right here, okay? What I'm showing you right now is the trick that has won me the most rapid games in my life in official tournaments. Not online tournaments, official tournaments. I mean, it works incredibly well, okay? What are we going to do? We're going to capture this pawn here with the bishop, just outright giving away the bishop. An absolutely spectacular move. Do you remember how earlier we gave away the knight? Now the bishop, but with the same purpose, to lure the king away, okay? Look at how important this square is, and now we bring in the queen check, and we're going to take this bishop here, all right? But notice that we're not going to take it right away. If the king moves back or comes over here, notice that he ends up on the same diagonal as the bishop. In that case, we would capture right away, because we would give check and then recover this pawn, and we'd be in a much better position. However, after giving this check, the most common move is for the king to come here, and here we're not going to capture. Instead, we'll first give this check for good measure. If the king comes here, it would be the same situation. We'd gain a tempo by capturing with check. Or, if they play the most logical move, which is g6, what they're actually doing is weakening this diagonal here, and now by capturing this bishop, we've simply opened up this diagonal for the rook. Notice that no matter how much they capture this pawn here, will be vastly superior thanks to our bishop controlling the longest diagonal on the board. You might say, hey, but they're not forced to capture. They have plenty of other options, right? For example, queen to e7, they want to trade queens, they're attacking here. It seems like a much more logical move. However, what we'll do is recapture this pawn with the queen. Notice that we're equal in material, so our gambit has worked to recover the material, and not only that, but we're in a much better position. And you might say, hey chess teacher, but here you're leaving this pawn, which is even giving a check to your king. So, what should I do? This move seems like a good one, right? Yes, but pay attention to the star move in this position, which is king to d1. A spectacular move? First, your opponent can't check you with anything, because we have everything covered, even if it seems unbelievable. And second, we're opening up this powerful file to place our rook, pin the queen, and win it, because she wouldn't be able to move since the king is right behind her. So I should move this queen. The only square where she can give check is this one here. Even though it might seem good, it's actually pointless, because we simply block with the bishop, and notice that now we're threatening to come through here again, and we're also threatening the rook. There are multiple threats. It's a completely impossible position to win with the black pieces, I'm telling you, and very easy to win with the white pieces. They should block this threat, but notice that it's almost impossible to do so, if not completely impossible. If they block with the knight, we capture. If they block with the knight, we capture, since we have the other knight, and if they block over here, it's the same. In other words, they're going to lose the game. Please, everyone pay attention, because now comes the best part, the very best part of the video, without a doubt. If anyone leaves now, they're going to miss the best part and won't be able to sleep tonight. Notice why this is going to be the best one. Knight to f3, knight to c6, we're going to play d4. So far, everything is the same. And when we play pawn takes pawn, we'll continue with the attack of, the Scotch Gambit, targeting this square here, alright? Notice that earlier I mentioned knight to f is 6, which is also a very common move. And I told you, if you were paying attention, that the move e5 was a very strong move. But here, I'm going to show you a move that's even stronger, and you're going to love it. Notice that here we have the typical move knight to g5, attacking this square here. And you might say, chess teacher, this is the fried liver attack. It's already well punished by black, and you've even shown me on the channel how to punish this attack. But notice that in this position, there's a key variation that will help you beat all your opponents. By the way, you're watching this video comfortably in your bed or on your couch, right? It looks great, you don't have to do anything, but I've put in a ton of work so you can watch it completely free and with this quality. So how about giving me a nice like? It doesn't cost you anything really, or leave a comment, whatever you prefer. Thank you very much, my friend. By the way, here, how can they stop this attack here? Well, they only have one move, and you'll agree with me that the only one is to play d5. You might say, it's simple, I capture it with the pawn, and when they take it with the knight, I capture this pawn with my knight, right? Well, no, my friend, here you would lose the game. You weren't paying attention, here you lose the game. It's true that you're attacking the queen and the rook, and if they capture here, you could come in with the queen, threaten here. Careful, you're getting ahead of yourself. If you take here, they could play queen to e7, an intermediate check, and on the next move, take your knight. And as white, you would lose the game. That's why you need to be careful here when making this move. I'll show you again so you understand. When playing d5 and making these exchanges we shouldn't capture here, instead we have the secret move, castling. What a fantastic move, right? Now, pay attention to something. Here, what are we threatening? Rook to e1, bringing the rook in. This king will be in big trouble. If I ask you here, what move would you play to develop your pieces, avoid this attack, and be able to castle quickly? Surely all of you will tell me bishop to e7. And it's a very logical move. Why? Because I want to castle quickly before you attack me. Oh, or before you defend yourself, sorry. And now we can play knight takes because we're castled. And look at this, we attack the queen, we attack the rook, so they have to capture with the king. There are no more in-between checks because the king is castled. And now, check with the queen. And on the next move, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take this knight here. Notice that it would be a disaster to bring the king to the center of the board since we have the rook. So now, they really should move back. Logically, by moving back, for example, here we would be giving a check, and on the next move, checkmate. So, there's a move that seems to cover everything, which is bishop to f6. But we don't really care, because we're simply going to capture this knight with check. They can block with the bishop, but it doesn't matter because we exchange, the king is in the center, and we bring in the rook thanks to having castled. Notice the difference between castling and not castling, right? A short castle, King Henry IV. We're attacking the king, so now, where does he have to go? Well, he has to go back, ladies and gentlemen, and all we have to do is switch sides. Here we've already done everything, now we give a check along the diagonal, and when he moves, for example, we come in here attacking the knight, the king is exposed, and our king is super safe. The position of the black pieces is falling apart. Super important if you want to play this line, super important. Knight to f3, knight to c6, d4 pawn takes, and bishop to c4, right? If they play knight to f6, we've seen all the options, right? We've already seen first with bishop to c5, and now we're looking at knight to f6. You've got everything really well reviewed in the video. So this is a very valuable video in case you want to save it. But now, super important, when we're carrying out this strong attack here, there might be a move that slips by us, and if we don't know how to punish it, you could be in trouble. But it's easy to punish, don't worry. I'll explain it super simply so you can understand. What happens if they play knight to e5 against us? Instead of playing d5, where we saw that we would exchange pieces and castle, what happens if they play knight to e5? They attack our bishop and at the same time defend this square. Many of you will say, or would say here, damn it. Well, I'm not going to say any bad words here because we're on YouTube and I want to monetize the video. That's just how it is, right? So if they attack our bishop here and defend this spot, all we have to do is pull the bishop back a little. Important, keep this diagonal here. You see that nothing at all happens here, right? But of course, now you might say, it's black's turn. We're attacking a defended square. And if they attack this knight, we can't do anything anymore, right? Because if it were our move now, everything would be very easy. For example, I capture here, threaten this knight, and when it moves away, I capture here. Or even stronger, I threaten with f4, and when this knight moves, I capture here. The difference is that it's black's turn, and they can drive our knight away. And if you haven't seen this part of the video, you might say, everything's gone down the drain, right? Everything's gone down the drain, the whole attack. But don't worry, because here the move f4 exists, which is a very strong move. You attack my knight, I attack yours, and notice that nothing happens here. Many of you will say, oh well, I can just move this knight away. If they move the knight away, we simply win the game. So the only option left for them is to capture this knight and accept the exchange. And when we accept the exchange, black will say, well, it's not such a big deal. We've just traded knights and now I can move this knight away and even win another pawn. Absolutely nothing happens because now we have the brutal move queen takes d4 attacking this knight, and here there are two possible moves. If your opponent gets too clever because he thinks he's a genius, right? He thinks he's the best in his house and wants to make a spectacular move, or if he just wants to play the normal move. If he gets too clever and is used to doing tactical exercises, he'll see that this move looks very good, it attacks the rook and can't be captured because it's pinned by this rook here. So he might play this move. However, all we have to do is play the queen here, attacking the knight and threatening checkmate. Then when they defend against the checkmate, we capture the knight. Serious mistake. Trying to get too clever here, it's very easy to punish, alright? We simply bring the queen over and win a piece, and if they don't notice, we deliver checkmate. And the idea is to bring the knight here. Why? Because it's defended by the bishop and can no longer be captured, and on top of that, they're attacking this bishop here. This is the most logical move. However, we don't care because we simply castle short. We castle on the king side and now we're attacking this point with two pieces extremely, extremely strongly. The only move to save themselves here, and it's practically forced, is to capture this bishop, right? And then we'll capture with the pawn, and notice the huge difference in position we have. Our king is already castled, the queen is in the center in a spot that can't be attacked. Our rooks are both targeting vulnerable points because right now this point is only defended by one and attacked by two. While most importantly, our opponent has all their pieces on the back rank, a massively winning position for the white pieces. Oh, by the way, I'm sure you really enjoyed this video, and I have, well, not a surprise, but rather an exclusive to share with you. I've bought a new chessboard. What do you think? I have to say, it's the coolest and most beautiful board I've ever bought in my life. You'll see it soon on the channel. I hope you love it, okay? Let's see what you think. Let me know in the comments. You know I don't get a lot of views on YouTube, let's be honest, but I do have a wonderful community, right? You watch my videos, and that's the most important thing, that we build a community, that you give me lots of likes, comments, and that we talk to each other. Let's see what you think of my new board. I'm thrilled to show it to you, okay? When it arrives, I'm going to do my best to record with it as soon as possible so you can see it. I don't know if I'll be able to get a discount from the brand for all of you, but I'll try. If I manage to, I'll let you know in the video. If not, it's no big deal. You'll still be able to enjoy the board in the videos. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. Since we're the best chess community in the world, if you leave me a nice comment, a like, or if you subscribe, anything helps. And I'll see you in the next video, friends. Goodbye.